Hi everybody, welcome to Ash & Co Workshops. My name's John T, and before we start, we're going to go over essential tools, things you're really going to need. So you're going to start off with, you need a hammer of some kind. One like this is fine, or one like this is fine. So I'll put that over there. Then you are going to need a damp cloth. An old J cloth will do the job, any old cloth will do it, but slightly dampen it. You can use that to wipe off any excess glue. You are also going to need a roll of kitchen roll for cleaning the oil off later on. You're definitely going to need that. You will need, of course, a protected work surface like this one, somewhere to work that won't get ruined, so not your lovely oak table. Let's just move that back in shot so you can all see it. Okay, then you're going to need something to lean your Eggy the Egg Cup on to let it dry. So I've just got a little piece of wood like this. You can either lean your chick or Eggy the Egg Cup like this just to dry. So that's helpful as well. Then you're going to need some PVA glue. Now we use wood glue. You can of course use PVA craft glue, not quite as strong, but you can use that. And the same, you can also use super glue. So any of those will suffice. You will also need a little bit of cling film to put over your pots. When you put the oil in, you're going to want to save half of it for the next day to do a second coat. So you can put some cling film over it and stop the air getting to it. And finally, you will need a pair of scissors to cut the top of the Osmo off. Okay, so a pair of scissors is handy. That's everything you need. That's the bare essentials. If you want some extra optional tools, we think really handy is a little small paintbrush like this for applying glue. You can put the glue inside the hole that you want the glue to go in without getting it everywhere, so that's super handy. So just any old thing will do. A sanding block you can put inside the sandpaper, also super handy, makes life a bit easier. Not essential, but that as well. You may need some tape as well, some masking tape or even sellotape. We'll do any kind of tape just to stop little areas getting oil on that we don't want to get oil on. Okay, so that masking tape as well. And then finally, we could use a rasp and a file and a clamp to hold our workpiece down. This is if you want to do really rounded edges like this Eggy the Egg Cup here. You see he's all nicely rounded on the edge. If you want to really round it over like this one, then you can use these kind of tools, or of course you can just go with sandpaper. Okay, that about covers it. Hi, welcome to Ash & Co Workshops. Again, this is the instructional video for your Eggy the Egg Cup kit. I'm going to show you how to make it here, but first of all, let's go over what's in the kit. So we've got here our finishing kit, and that's for putting on oil at the end. We've got our Eggy the Egg himself, made out of solid maple, which is a really beautiful wood. Two little dowels here for the legs, and of course the cute little feet. Oh, they're cute. I've got those as well. Of course, you have your maker card. Hopefully you have found that by now, because it should have taken you to this video. But don't forget to show off your make, and you can win a prize once you've made your Eggy the Egg Cup. And finally, we have got two different types of sandpaper here. If you look on the back of them, we've got one of them says P120, which is like a medium grit, and then we've got P180, which is a fine grit, and we'll need both of those. So before we get started, a couple of safety things. If you are doing sanding, you should be wearing a dust mask if you're working indoors, so make sure you're doing that. If not, then do it outdoors, but it doesn't create too much dust, this kit. So now we get to the fun bit. We can start sanding our Eggy the Egg Cup. Now we want to sand him all the way over with this piece of paper first. This is 120 grit sandpaper, and then we're going to go over it with 180 grit sandpaper. Some tips on sanding: you want to make sure you focus on the very edges like these. This edge here is quite sharp, if you can feel it, and this is called the arris, and we want to take off the arris and make sure it's rounded, and that will stop this from like cutting into your egg when you put it in it, and it will stop the wood from splitting if you were to bash it on anything. So it's really, really important. Also focus on the scratches that you're putting into Eggy the Egg Cup. If you're sanding like this with the lines of the wood, like these lines here, you can see that. If you're sanding like this, that's great. But if you're sanding this way, then you're going to put scratches all across Eggy the Egg Cup. And when you put the finish on, you'll really see those scratches. That applies to the sides as well. You can see they come across at an angle here. So try your best to keep it at that angle as best you can. Now it's much easier to do this either putting the sandpaper on the bench, and you can rub Eggy the Egg Cup back and forward like this, or you can get yourself a little wooden block, anything will do, and wrap the sandpaper around the block, and that gives you a hard surface to be able to sand with, and it's much, much easier. When you get to the point where you're doing the inside edges, then you're just going to want to tear off a piece of sandpaper. Just fold it back and forward both ways, and then it should tear really easily. And then you can hold that then and get right into the insides like this to get that arris off there and give it a good sand on the inside. Okay, so my suggestion is start with the faces first, front and back, and then go around the edges, get that nice and smooth, then break off a bit and do the inside bits, and then do it all again with the 180 grit. And of course, you'll need to do that too with the dowels for the legs and the feet as well. Now, a quick note on these, make sure you don't sand the edges on these too much here, because if you do, it'll make these too small, and then when you go to put it in, it won't fit properly. At the moment, they fit really nicely, they're just right, and once we've glued those in, they'll be perfect. So if we sand that even hardly at all, it will make this a bit too loose, so try and avoid that as much as you can. All you need to do with these dowels, you can see the little furry bits maybe just on the end there. Hopefully you can see that. You just need to just go around the edges like that. And that's all you need to do. Really only takes 2 seconds. Just turning it whilst I'm doing the sandpaper. There we go. That's that one. Same for this one. Now the feet, they need a bit more work. On one of the sides, you'll need to give it a good rub back and forward. The best way to do this is just to put it on the bench like this. Go back and forward. And again, the sharp edges like this, just make sure you take some time to take off the sharp edges all the way around. And you could tear off a tiny bit of paper to get in these little toes here as well. Okay, so I'm not going to put you through watching me sand this because it takes quite a long time. So I'm going to sand mine on super speed and I will see you on the other side. So before we move on, I just wanted to show you one that I did earlier, and you can see on this one I've rounded the edges all the way over and on the inside and the back, and I've really spent some time getting sure that that edge is equal all the way around and really nicely rounded. If you compare it to the one I've just done, you can see this one's a bit not as rounded. They're both excellent, so you can do whichever you want. But if you do want to do one like this, a good way to do it is you can use some basic hand tools you've probably got lying around. This is a rasp, and it's just really rough, and you can rub that over the wood to basically round the edges very, very quickly, but they're very rough. Or just a classic old file that I'm sure you have sitting around somewhere. You can use the file to rub that all the way over the edge. You can use a circular one like this to get inside like this and go all the way around. I've got this old one here, I've got this one, any old thing will do. Just get stuck in. The key thing is being able to hold the workpiece down. So you can clamp it to your bench or even hold it off the edge of your bench and use the tools like that to create the rounded edge. I just wanted to mention that in case you've got these tools lying around and you wanted to make it even more rounded. Of course, you can also do it just with the sandpaper by hand. It just takes a long time. Okay then, so now we're moving on to finishing our egg. For this bit, you can kind of do it either way around. You can glue it all together and then apply the finish, or you can apply the finish and then glue it together. So I'll leave that up to you. There's benefits for both ways around of doing it, but in this instance, I'm going to apply the oil first because I want to show you that. Now, you've got your 2 dowels here. Now, if you're going to apply oil, if you apply oil to these dowels, where you apply oil, they won't stick to the glue anymore. So you'll need to cover them with some kind of tape. Sellotape would be fine, or masking tape if you've got it. And that will look something like that once you've covered them, okay? You want to make sure you don't get oil on the bits you're going to actually stick, all right? So, with that said, let's get on and open our finishing kit. So, you get in your finishing kit 1 pack of Osmo oil, 1 pair of gloves, a little pot, a couple of sponges, and a little stirrer stick that you kind of don't need. So you've got your gloves. First of all, get your gloves on. So here we go, we've got our gloves on. Then what you want to do is give the packet a good smush like this. Smush it back and forward for about a minute to warm it up. And then you're going to get a pair of scissors and cut the top off. You can just tear it, but it leaves a rough edge and then it goes everywhere. So use a pair of scissors and cut the top off, and that will look like this one here. Okay, so when you've done that, you want to pour it into the pot, like so. Pour it all the way in, and you will end up with actually a little bit more than this. This is one I've used earlier. But you can see it doesn't look like a lot, but it's more than enough to get the job done. Okay, so now we're going to get one of our special Osmo cloths. These are really good because they're non-abrasive, but if you rub it into the wood really hard, it'll pick up any kind of sawdust that's left over and also give you a real sort of good finish at the end. So all you want to do is dip this into your Osmo oil. Now you can see here what I've got on the end here. It's really not very much. You don't need much at all. Okay, and then we are gonna go for it. And look at that, immediately completely transforms how this wood looks. I absolutely love Osmo oil. Okay, you can see I'm just going over the holes here, but as you can see, I haven't gone inside. You don't want to get any oil inside the holes because you want the glue to stick in there later on, all right? Okay, so give that a good Osmo all over, and you can see how far it goes. Just that little bit I had on the end of the cloth is more than enough to do the job. There you go, that is Eggy the Egg done. So what you want to do, give that a few minutes and then just go back and check that there's no dry spots. You can see inside here I've missed a bit, so I just want to get in there and really work it in. That's what you're trying to do, is kind of push the oil into the wood, and then go back and check for any dry spots, especially on the side grain or the end grain like this. Okay, and then just put that down to dry. Then you can move on to your feet. Get those done as well. Give them a good coat all over. Okay, looking fantastic. That's that one done. And then I'm going to move on to my dowels, which I've just put a bit of tape around, as you can see. So I'm just going to, a little bit of oil on those too. Okay, so that's everything with Osmo on it. So the next step is you need to get some kitchen roll or some kind of tissue. Okay, get a couple of sheets of that and then clean your hands first of all. And then what we want to do is we'll go around and wipe off every bit of oil that you possibly can. You can do this quite vigorously. You want to make sure that you've got all the standing oil off there completely. If you don't do this, it will take a couple of weeks to dry, and we don't want that. So we wipe it off like this. Okay, fantastic. That's all done, and you can see now that'll be almost dry to the touch. And what you need to do now is just put it on something to dry for about 12 hours. Just leave it in the air. The heat won't help it. You just need air. So I'm just going to pop it on a block here, let that dry for 12 hours. So same thing with the legs and the feet as well. Okay, and that is all that done. So next, we're going to move on to gluing this together. So you want to get yourself some wood glue. PVA will do it. You can use kind of craft glue like this one. Wood glue is better and will probably last a bit longer. So if you've got wood glue, use that, definitely. Once your oil has dried, then you're going to pull off the masking tape. So I've taken the tape off the dowels here. So the next step is, if you've got a little craft brush or something like that, it's really handy to do this step with. Don't worry if not, you can just kind of tip the glue into the hole, but if you've got a brush, it just makes life a bit easier. So we only need a really tiny bit like this. We don't need a lot. And then I'm just going to get that on the edge of the brush, wipe off any excess. You can see there. Now I am going to start with the glue in these holes here. Now we just want to make sure it's coated all the way around. Then if you've got a damp cloth, you can just wipe off any excess there. So now we're going to do the same on the little feet. So I'm just going to put my brush in there and go round and round. And then I can be sure that I've coated every surface. Now, the benefit of doing Osmo beforehand is that it's much easier to wipe off any glue from on top of the oil because it won't stick. Or it won't stick very well, I should say. Okay, and there we go. So I always think it's better to put the feet on first. But it doesn't really matter. You can do this the other way around if you want to. But we're going to hammer them around a bit in a second. So we'll just pop these on there for now. Give that a little wipe, give that a little wipe, and then we're going to attach the feet into the body. So you can just push on this, push, push, push. Same on this one. push and twist, push and twist. Now you see the legs, they stick out here from the back. So you're going to want to turn the legs like this so that when you put your egg down, it will be flat against the surface. So I like to get them nice and even because I like it that way. So I'm going to get them even like that. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to get my hammer and I'm just going to give it a little tap, only gentle. Now you want to try and get them equal. So you don't have to put them all the way in. You just need to get them so they've got a good hold and then that the legs are equal. And then I'm just going to pull the legs back up to the top here so they're nice and even. So just pulling the feet up on the dowels there. So they come a tiny bit more. And then check them again for straightness. And then check that it's not going to rock. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I can just come in here with a cloth and get off any excess glue. I can double check there's no glue anywhere else. But what I have noticed is there's now a little bit of osmo in there. Hopefully you can see it, that I haven't got. So my best suggestion to you is just leave it to dry. And then when you do another coat of osmo, you can come back and get it then, okay? So, like I say, leave it for about 12 hours to dry. Then the next day, come back in and give it another coat. The second coat really is a charm, so it's really worth doing. And then that's it. Your egg is protected and it's ready to use as an egg cup once it's nice and dry. You'll be able to wipe it clean with a damp cloth, a warm damp cloth. Don't put it in the dishwasher. Don't leave it soaking in hot water. If you do get egg all over it, then it's good to clean it straight away afterwards. Don't let the egg just sit there. And you will notice over time that what happens is the oil just gently gets rubbed off as you use things. It will gently get rubbed away, and all you need to do is get yourself another pack of this 3032 Osmo oil. These are about £1.50 just for a sachet like this, and then apply it again, wipe it off in the same way. You don't need to sand it, anything like that. Just put on some more oil and you're good for another couple of years. So you can just keep looking after it like that. But this is a food safe, environmentally friendly way to treat wood, and it is really fab. So that's it from me. I hope you really enjoyed making your very own Eggy the Egg Cup, and I hope you have lots of boiled eggs and toasted soldiers in it. And don't forget to send us pictures of your makes, because you can go in our star maker section on our website, and more than that, we just absolutely love seeing what you guys make. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.